All right, what's up, guys? I'm Enrique, but he knows me as Luis. It's a long story, and I haven't even explained it to him. But this is
James Morrell. Nice to meet you guys.
So we were actually just talking about something, and we're like, hey, let's just start it. So what were we talking about?
Kind of just like displaying enthusiasm,
Yeah.
and kind of how that's a challenge for a lot of people to be enthusiastic and to like even show emotion, I guess, in some ways. That was kind of the issue we were discussing.
Yeah. Because it is, dude. Like, I would get stuck because I don't know if it was just like a mental thing, and I'm pretty sure everything is a mental thing.
Right.
If you really think about it,
right.
Everything is. Because you have a certain amount of education, right? Mm-hmm. But then no one tells you how to express yourself.
Exactly.
They're just like, here, go to school, learn this. Okay, now go into the work field and try it out.
And apply it.
Yeah, I'm like, how do I apply it though?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Sometimes they do kind of give you a little like, okay, here's go do this speech or go do this. But they don't really tell you like, okay, they don't really go into detail, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
you know what
exactly.
I mean? Like the real thing.
Yeah.
Like life experiences.
For sure.
So, and what me and Mikey, which Mikey couldn't make it, but anyways, we talk about is experience it. Like you can talk about it, you can read books about it, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to school. But if you don't actually experience it, do you actually know it?
Exactly.
You know what I mean? You can't really tell someone, hey, go do this, but you've never done it. Like, why would I listen to you?
Right.
You know what I mean? So this is why I wanted to interview James, because a lot of the things that he talks about, he actually does it. There's a lot of people that are just talk, and James actually did it. So this is why I wanted to talk to James about all this stuff. So let's go into like how you started with everything, man.
Yeah, so I grew up I'd say a pretty motivated guy. I don't really know where it came from. I think at an early age I learned from my parents or whoever else that it's really important to leave your comfort zone and to do things that really scare you and challenge you, because in the end, those things really help cultivate your personality and who you want to be in your mindset, like we're talking about.
Yeah.
So again, actions speak louder than words. It's easy to talk a big game about, I want to do this goal or that, and then a lot of the time people don't really deliver or even try sometimes. So for me, I mean, I don't know where I learned it. I think it was like in middle school sometime. Like my dad told me to run for like student body president, something like that. Something that's kind of like meaningless in some ways, you'd think. But I actually learned just in those small things, like just going after a goal that small and the impact you can have on people around you, you start to see, wow, the more I continue to do this in my life, I'm hopefully going to be successful, whether it's in school or the races or anything else. So that's kind of where it started, I guess. And it's kind of melted its way into a lot of my other aspects of my life.
Yeah. So if you guys don't know, James actually, is it published, your book? So he wrote a book in high school.
Yes.
You gotta give me more background about it.
Yeah. Well, it came out the week before I graduated high school, and so it's published. It was actually a mixture, so it's my book technically, but in the book there's myself, and there's actually 34 other people of different backgrounds, and we're talking all backgrounds. There's military, there's business, doctors, everything from top to bottom, and it's a pretty much a 10-step guide. Each person lists 10 steps for success, and it's kind of aimed at high school graduates because they're the most probably in need of information going into the real world. But it's really for anyone. I mean, I've had people, adults have said, hey, this piece of advice from that book was really good, and so it's really good for anyone. And the cool part of that book for me is, I mean, obviously there's some luxuries because you publish a book, you're an author, but the coolest part for me was really two things. Like, first of all, learning from all these people, because they're all way smarter than I am. They've lived. Like, I was 18 at this time. They've actually done things, and so I learned a ton from them, getting to know them, and then more importantly, or equally as importantly, I'd say, just seeing the effect that you have on other people, even if just one person. Because some people might kind of skim through it and be like, it's whatever. But some people have reached out and been like, I love that one thing right there. Like, actually was cool, and it helped me out, and it's really like I think about it. And so just to know if you affect even one or two people, it's like a big driver.
It is, man. I mean, I'm experiencing it too, like just people like with their feedback with our business and everything. It's like, all right, I'm doing something. I'm doing something right. You know, and it's a good feeling. So how did you get into writing that book? Like what made you be like, okay, I want to do this?
Yeah, so it's kind of a funny story, and it starts actually back in high school, like my junior year. So I got really into, for some reason, I don't know why, I started to love this leadership concept. I loved like speaking to people. I loved reading these books.
Yeah.
So I wasn't totally into writing yet, but so that's like, I'll put that on pause for a sec. I started competing in these bodybuilding shows, like where you get in the grease.
Yeah, I think I saw those pictures. Yeah.
Right.
How old were you?
Kind of cheesy. 17.
Okay.
Yeah, 17.
Kind of cheesy. Hey,
it was like,
hey, you did it though, man.
Yeah, it was fun. Like I wasn't even that serious, I guess, about it, but it was one of those things. Again, like I attribute a lot of my successes to my dad and both my parents. Like they're always like, you should just do this. Like just try it out, just do it.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, there's this bodybuilding show. I remember the morning he came out. Like he's like, do you want to just do it as a joke or something? And I was like,
he would too. That's hilarious.
He was like, you're kind of funny, right? And like you're good. And I was like, yeah, I'll just do it. Like, why not? And so I started getting like at the time I was lifting for football. I was in pretty like I was a bulky guy, kind of more in high school. So I started training and ended up doing the show. And there's like pictures of me. You know, and it's like there was only 2 of us, and I got second place in my group. So I usually leave that part out. I got second place. But
we all know now.
Yeah, everyone knows now. So last place, but it was cool though. And then from there, I was like, well, I love fitness. Obviously, I've been doing these events like for a while. Like not even just I only did one bodybuilding show, but at this point, I was like, I love sports. I competed in some triathlons, as we were talking about, and I liked this leadership concept and also the fitness. So I thought like maybe I'll just start writing some things down. Turns out I just loved writing. Writing is one of my better skills naturally. I'm not good at a lot of things, but writing comes pretty easily.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I just sat down. I wrote about a 200-page book of like stuff.
Yeah.
And we found our publisher, who's my current publisher for my current book.
Oh, so you have another book coming out?
Well, no. So meaning this book I was working on didn't work out.
Oh.
But the same publisher ended up publishing my book I have now.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of one of these stories of like adversity in a way, because the book was good, they approved it, thought it was a really cool idea, and it was like on its way to being published, or at least through editing, and they decided, well, there's a lot of good content in this book, but at the same time, you're at this point 17 or 18, and you know, there's good stuff, but you're honestly not that credible. It's true, I was 17 years old.
Yeah.
So like, who's gonna buy this book? And they were like, you need to reframe this or it's off. So they pretty much cut the project. And it sucked because I put like weeks and months into this book, and I was excited to have my book, right? And it was like cut. From there, I sat down with my parents and we drafted this idea. It's kind of like the chicken noodle soup books, where there's like multiple people in it, and it's little lists, little concise pieces of information. And we drafted this up and said, okay, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do 10 steps from each person. It's gonna be like multiple people, 10 steps, and we're going to target the high school audience. It's called Epic Advice for Graduates, 10 things every high school student or graduate should know.
Yeah.
And they liked that. They thought it's good, it makes sense, it's quick and concise, and there's a good target audience for me because I'm in high school or just finishing, and there's all these people with like really cool backgrounds.
Yeah, and that experience, like you mentioned.
Experience, exactly. And so they
actually
had great
did
things to say.
Okay, guys, they actually did this.
Yeah, they actually did these things, and so that was the cool part about it. And from there, it worked. We got everything rolling, and it was like 5 months and the book was published. And I got it out a week before I graduated high school, and it was a humbling experience, and I hope to get another. I have not published another one now, but it's a really cool way to start the series. It's the Epic series, Epic Advice for this, for that, and so we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, sweet.
Let's see where it goes.
And then you kind of already touched on it, triathlons. So what made you want to do triathlons?
Yeah, so my dad's pretty big into cycling, and again, just one of those small things. He's like, let's go on bike rides together. And we did some biking, and then the same kind of, I was prompted by the same thing. Oh, well, there's this race. I'll do a race. So we did a few biking events out in Nampa and those areas.
Yeah.
And then there was a triathlon, and I grew up as a swimmer. Both my sister and I did. And so we signed up for these races. I liked them. They were fun. I wasn't taking them too seriously, but it was like, opening my eyes as to what I can accomplish. And I did like a couple of sprint triathlons, then the Olympic distance, then I got up to the half Ironman, did a couple of those. And now I'm signed up for this Ironman in the fall, a full distance, and I'm just excited for it. This is the first time I'm actually training to do this stuff. And so a lot of these events and things I've been involved with just happened to come across. Like my dad was like, hey, you should just try this, or, what's the worst that can happen?
Exactly. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. And then all of them were positive experiences, So that's kind of how that got started, though, and it's been awesome, and I'm happy to be getting back into it right now.
That's awesome, man. So then, from there, so it's triathlon, book, and then you went into the whole Navy thing.
Yeah.
So what was it? Because I kind of already know what it was because we talked about this before.
Mm-hmm.
But what was it that was like, okay, what was a turning point for you? I was like, I want to do this now.
Yeah. So I always expressed interest in being in the military. Like in high school, it came across my mind to apply to the academies maybe. I probably didn't have good enough grades, honestly, in high school to even get in. And then I'm happy it didn't work out that way. But I got into college, and like there was always this thing about not even the Navy, not even the BUDS, the SEAL program, but just like the military in general. And then all of a sudden, towards the end of my junior year of college, I just kind of had this change of heart, and I was like, that is the job I want to do, this specific job in the Navy.
Yeah.
And I want to, see if I'm cut out for this thing, or if it, how I'd react under those circumstances. So I started training a ton. I got into a program last summer. It's called SOAS. It stands for SEAL Officer Assessment and Selection, and it's pretty much just a week of BUDS training.
Yeah.
Just to see how you fare. I'm actually for officers only, if you want to be an officer in the SEAL teams. And it didn't work out for me, but it was very humbling because, you go down there, man, and it's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
You can watch the movies, you can read the books. Like you're saying, you can watch all this stuff and think, that's probably pretty hard.
I can do that. I do a couple of bicep curls once in a while.
Exactly.
I can do that.
But once you're in it, it's a whole different ballgame because you're up at 4:35. And you are going from that moment till 11 o'clock at night, at least for this assessment we were doing. And it's like a 100% grind. It's not like, you do some pull-ups here and there for an hour. It's just like constant. That that feeling when you're going around the track, you're sprinting, and it's like, you feel like you can't keep going. You're going 100%. That's pretty much how it felt the whole time in some ways.
Yeah.
So it teaches you a lot about yourself in the sense that it shows you your weaknesses. Mm-hmm. But it gives you a good opportunity to display your strengths too, because like for me, when I was going through it, there were so many times where I was like, I said to my head, it's unhealthy, but I said this to myself, I cannot keep doing this. And I kept going. You just keep going and going and going. And so they say with that program, it's as simple as not quitting. It's not easy, but it's simple. Just like keep going and know that it's going to be over at some point. Mm-hmm. And it is a mental ballgame though, because we had guys, this whole program we got into, it's very selective, and we had guys in our class dropping out within the first couple hours. And it's brutal. It really is a kick to the nuts, honestly, because you think you're the stud. Everyone thinks you're a stud going down there. And it's a whole different thing once you're out there. Like, you're in the ocean, you're freezing, you're doing the surf torture stuff. The boats on heads, to me, that was the worst event. That's where I hurt my knee and went down. That's where my week ended. But that was one of the most brutal things, and it's crazy. So anyway, long story short, the officer path didn't work out. I was set to enlist, and due to a couple other medical problems, it's pretty much off the table now. But it was a great experience, and it taught me a ton about.
And now you can talk about it.
Talk about it, yeah. It's tough. It's a bummer in some ways, right? Because it's like I've always wanted to do it, and it's one of those things that you almost avoid talking about because you're lucky to be going to that, and there's a good chance you won't make it. So you got to be humble about it too, and especially because it didn't even work out for me. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it was. You learn about yourself. You learn about